So hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sanskar, and in this video you're going to learn how to build this awesome looking to-dos app with React and Firebase. We are going to start from the scratch and hosting it live on the web. So if you like the sound of that, make sure to hit that like button and let's continue making this. So first of all, I would like to show you the demo, how it looks like and what are we going to build. So this is a to-do application where you can type in a to-do. So for example, me doing something, that's a to-do which I want to do, and it will be added in the real time. You don't as you can see, it's instantly visible. The best part is it is saved in the Firebase storage, so it's not something which I am just able to see right now. I will be able to see it from anywhere I want, right? Other than that, we have an option to mark it as done if that is completed, or mark it as undone if it's not completed. We can even delete a particular one. So overall, what you can see, we are going to cover whole Firebase operations like create, read, update, and delete, right? So this is going to be really super fun and going to cover a really broad aspect of Firebase Firestore database. Other than that, we are going to learn how to host this particular project for free online so that you can share it with your friends and family and show them what you have built. So without any further ado, let's begin. So first of all, open up your VS Code. If you haven't already set up React, just visit node js.org, and over there just download this, right? Once you download and install, open up your terminal or CMD depending on your operating system. So let me open up my terminal. Then you have to type node-v. This is going to show you the version of the node installed, right? If it is showing right, then it's installed successfully. Congratulations. If not, then make sure to do that again and properly. Okay, once that is done, then let's move on to create our new React.js project. So I'm going to open up, what is this? I need to open up a new terminal window, and we are going to create a new React project. So to do that, I'm just going to type npx create React app, and I'm going to name this application to-do app tutorial. Now this is being created at the main directory. That's not exactly what I want. So let me, okay, that's not what is should happen. Excuse me for that. I should start it from scratch then. Okay, let's just create it over there. So I'm just going to hit enter and create that. One mistake which I did was just directly creating that in my main directory. You can just go to your directory of going through CD and all, and then create it wherever you want, because that folder will be created now. So now let me open up my prod file. So like, just a second, I'm going to open up this folder of mine. And it should be inside users, my name. I'm not sure. It's just okay. So you can see it's created over here. This is the project, and I'm going to open it up in VS Code. So I'm going to take it, and here we go. So it's open up. Let me close this particular window. So if you're confused what I did, I just created the project and I opened that particular folder wherever it exists, right? It was existing in my main directory, and I opened that up with VS Code. If you have don't have this, what this is, right? This is called VS Code. So make sure to download that. It's a tool by Microsoft, so you can just type VS Code and you can just download that. It's a very lightweight tool and a must if you're coding. Okay, so now let's continue. What we are going to do, first of all, we have a boilerplate code for a React project. So let me try to run this so that you can see how it looks like. So I'm going to say npm start. This is going to start the project in our browser. So as you can see, this is the fresh boilerplate code which we receive for a React.js project. Now what we are going to do is we are going to get rid of all the things which we don't want, and then so that we can work on what we actually are here for. So let me remove this, and we don't even want test. So let me remove that as well. And we don't want these styling. I don't want these styling either. I think we can keep this. This is the font families and all. So let me just save that and that. And let's move on to the app.js. The error it is showing is because we have deleted the logo. So let me remove that from here. And I'm going to get rid of all of this. No confusion. Just showing h1 as Sanskar Tiwari, my name, to-dos app, and a bit of an emoji for just a little fun. And that's fine. So let me just save that, and you can see it's saying this particular file does not exist. So I guess we are using it here. So let me just get rid of that and save that. Once I'll do that, I'm going to reload. It's still showing issues. So let me get rid of that. And you can see we have that. Okay, so first thing first, I personally don't like this font. So I want to use a custom font. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit Google Fonts, open that up. I really like this font. What is it called? Just something like, you can use whichever we want. So let me use something which I haven't used. Or should I use something which I already used? Well, the font is called Poppins. So let me just search for it. This one, this is the font which I used for this application. So you can see this font looks totally different to what this is. So I'm just going to use this regular 400 version. Just click on it. It's going to show you this option. So I'm going to use it inside a CSS file. So I'm going to just copy this part. Visit my app.css, paste it there, then mention star, which is basically for all the elements. And then we want to apply this font family of Poppins. And if that is not available, then sans serif. Now, if I will save, you can see it looks much beautiful. Okay, so let's back to that. I'm going back over here. Okay, so what we are going to start with? Well, we are going to start by adding this particular text field so that we can accept the input. User can type the to-do. Then we are going to connect our application with Firebase so that we can do all the fun stuff with Firebase. Okay, so let's first use this. Now, I'm not going to create this from scratch, and the one which the web have for the input field, it really looks quite ugly, and we have to do a lot of CSS to implement a proper good looking one. So what we are going to do, we are going to use something called Material UI. So what is Material UI? Well, Material UI is basically a popular, what is it saying? Yeah, it's basically components pre-built for you. You don't have to build them from scratch. So for example, I want to use text field, right? I can visit text field, and this particular text field can be added just by this much of a code, right? So I'm going to just add that. Now, you're not going to be able to use it directly. You have to first add this to your project. So for that, I'm just going to visit the home page. Over here, you have npm installed. So just click on this get started, and it will show you this yarn as well. I'm using yarn because that works for me. This was not working for me, so it was not a choice for me. But if it is for you, then choose whatever you want. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it in the terminal and hit enter. So now it's going to run, get all the packages from that Material UI code, and then we will be able to use, where it is, this one with just a single line of code. Okay, so it's imported. Let me just clear all of that. Now I'm going to import that from that particular package. Okay, it's not showing an option. XLD. Well, if it does for you that as well, just open up this code. Okay, have this code option in their website. Just click on that, and then you can copy that and paste it here. Now you can see, without writing much code, we have this. This looks good, isn't it? So now what we want is, we want to change this. We don't want a standard looking over here. We want this to be, something like write a to-do. So I'm going to save that. So you can see it's going to update, and it is updated. Okay, now first thing first, this looks a bit, too much at that particular side. We are going to have that in center. So let me just do that quick. I'm going to use a style. Now we have two options whenever you want to style your particular components in this React. So first of all, I hope you understand a little bit about React. If you don't, this is not exactly HTML. This is JSX So things like styles and all are not directly used the way they are in HTML, and even these values, it's not class. For example, you can see it's class name. So that is something which is different in JSX and HTML. So you can read more about it further. It's a bit of out of scope of what we are going to do. But overall, if we want to use a style, we can either take the class name, create a new file like this, styles file, import that like we have done over here, and then assign the styles over there. The other option is we can do in styling directly over here. So that's what I'm going to do right now, so that it's much easier for you to understand maybe. And I'm going to say display, and I'm going to use flex. Okay, this is a bit of a CSS if you're not aware much about it. Like whenever you want to have two different components and you want them to be aligned vertically or horizontally, this is what I used to go for. So I want these particular ones to be aligned vertically. You may think that they were already aligned like that, but I want them to be in the center as well. So I'm going to say justify content, and then I'm going to say center. Now if I will save that, one thing is they are in the center, but they are like side by side. That's the initially defined property for flex, that the components for them will be aligned horizontally, but we want them to be vertically. So we are going to change the flex direction to column. Once I will do that, you can see they are one above the other. Not yet, because it's not column yet, it's just column. So let me just say section and then column, and now I'll save that, and you can see it's just below that. So now that looks much better, but I don't want this to be like taking the whole space like that. That's not exactly what we want, right? So I'm just going to take it, put it inside a div, cut this style out, provide that to this div. Okay, this is much a better option. I don't think that sounds like that. So what can we do? I do want to provide this particular text field a maximum width. So I'm going to say style. Okay, then we will provide these curly braces twice, and then I'm going to say max width, and I'm going to fix that to 300 pixel, and that should be fine. Now one thing which I can notice, they are still not in center, right? What happened? So well, I'm going to just grab all these styling and put them there. Now if I'll see, reload that, well, the maximum is not taken care of, so I'm going to say width. I want that to be around 90 VW. What do I mean by that? I mean, I want the width of the view, whatever view we have. So this is taking the whole view space, but it's not aligned that like. So I'm going to say align items and center, and that is going to do the work for us. Okay, so one thing which I can notice is now what we want is we want to connect this application to Firebase. To do so, just visit firebase.com. I'm going to show you how we do that. Just type Firebase, open up the first link, or you can click the second link. That can save Google a little bit of a penny. But then select your Google account. So I'm going to select this one. Once you do that, click on Go to Console. I already have created one project before, so it's showing that. But if you don't worry if you don't see any project. Just click on Add Project, create a new project, and I'm going to name that Todo App. And I'm going to click on Continue. I'm not going to use Google Analytics, so I'm going to turn that off and click on Create Project. It's going to take a few seconds. So let's go back and see what we are going to do. So now what I'm going to do, once I am going to connect that, I'm going to add functions to add this to-do to the Firebase database. Then we are going to fetch that. Then we are going to update if it's completed or not, and then we are going to delete. So I hope that structure is clear now. Let's continue over there. Once you will be on this overview page of your project. What you have to do now is you have to connect your web app with Firebase. To do so, you have to click on this web option, click on that, and then give a nickname to your application. I'm going to give a nickname of Todo App. Now, as I said, we will be hosting our project online, but that will be done in the end. So I'm not selecting it right now, but don't worry, we are going to do that. So I'm going to click on Register App now, and it's going to load for a second or so. Once it's done, it's going to provide us a lot of keys. You should just create your own. Please don't use mine. I'm going to delete this project anyways, but yeah, just now to use the Firebase in your project, you need to first install it. So I'm going to say yarn add Firebase. If I will be using npm, then I will say npm install then Firebase, or you can say npm I then space and then Firebase. Okay, so it's going to take a while. In the meantime, I'm going to go inside my source folder, click on this, which is going to create a new file. I'm going to call this Firebase config.js, and over here I'm going to paste all of this code. Okay, so these are basically keys and all. So I'm just going to click on continue to console. So now I would like to show you how our database looks like and how are we going to structure the data for that. So in this application, you can see what we have is first this particular text of what is the to do. Second is it in progress or is it completed, right? The third value to that will be the timestamp. So one thing which you can notice is if I add new to do, it will be at the top, right? So what I'm doing is I am sorting all my to dos by their timestamp. So the one which is added recently will be at the top. So we will have 3 values for each of these to do. The first one is what is the task. Second, is it in progress or is it completed? Third is what is the time. So this appears to be problem with your network. Let me just close that and try once again. I'm going to say yarn add Firebase. If I hit that, okay. So let's give it a few moments of time. Okay, so it's finally done. It took quite a lot of while than expected. So if it takes more time for you than expected, don't worry about it. So Firebase is finally installed. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over here and then I'm going to open up this. Let me close this, sorry, and open this up much. And I'm going to import Firebase from, you guessed it, Firebase. Okay, so now once you will import that, what we need to do is we have these keys, right? We need to initialize the Firebase project as well. So I'm going to just say Firebase dot initialize app and pass in this Firebase config. Now we are specifically going to use Firestore for this. So let me define a variable for that, so that from outside of this particular file of this Firebase config.js, I can just get this. Basically, I will be exporting it from this, and then I can use it in other files to perform actions with the Firestore. So now I'm going to say db is equals to Firebase dot Firestore. Okay, then I'm going to say export db. So why am I doing this? Because now I can import this in any file. So for example, in this one, and then I can use and create a function over here to add the to do, get the to do, and things like that, and I don't have to import Firebase again. Like, so I hope that makes sense. So let's do that now. So as I said, first we will connect, which is actually done. So next step is to add to do. So let's go ahead and see how we are going to do that. So first we need to accept the text or the task which the user types here, right? Save it to some variable so that we can later on push that to our database. So what we are going to use for that is hooks, right? If you do not understand much about it, first do this, say use state, import that. It's going to add it right over here like this. Then you can just say use state. This is a template of how a particular hook is defined. So it is kind of, think of it like this is the variable and this is a function which can update the variable. Okay, this variable cannot be updated by saying that variable name is equals to something, right? You can only update the value of that variable by calling this particular function. So for example, for this, I'm just calling it. So let's call that to do, right? To do input, right? So that's the input which the user has submitted for the to do. So I can then say set to do input, right? So that is a function which is going to be responsible for updating the to do input variable, right? It's not exactly variable, but I hope you understand how hooks works. So this is the initial value. So it says initial state, but this is basically the initial value for that particular variable. So this is going to be an input field. So I'm just giving it a blank string, if that was not audible. So now I'm going to take this variable. What I want is whenever whenever I will write something here, so if I write something here, it should be updated to that particular variable. So how can we do that? I'm going to use onChange, and what onChange does is onChange will provide us this particular value, and I can just say set to input e.target dot value. Okay, now I can also say value of this particular text field is going to be to do input. So if I will save that, and if I type something, this should be saved to this particular variable, or I should say a hook, right? Now how to verify that? Okay, so let me show you. So now what I did over here is rather than using it directly, I just added these curly braces so that I can write a bit more code over here rather than just a single line of code. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just console.log. This is the input, or you can say the to do input, and I'm going to print this whole value so that you can understand what we are getting over there. Okay, so let me just inspect, go to the console, clear it all, and restart. Now if I type something over here, you can see whenever I type a single character, it's updated. So you can see this is a to do, and this particular onChange, what does onChange means? Well, the text field is changing. That's when this is called. So it's updating this value. So let me just remove that, and even remove that and remove these curly braces as well, since we just have a single line of code, so it does not makes much sense to use it like that. Okay, so this is much lighter, short code. Okay, so what do we want to do now? We have the value, we want to upload it to the database. To do that, we are going to create a function. It's going to be constant add to do. Okay, and this is how we do with creating a, you can create like this, or you can even create like this. It's not going to be a very big change, so I can just say to do. I don't want you to be confused, so I'm just saying there's not much, there are reasons why to use this more and things like that, but just to make sure you don't get confused, I'm going to use it like this. So you defined a function, you named it, and this is how it is. So what do we want to do? Well, first of all, when are we going to call this? Well, we are going to call this whenever we will, write this down and hit enter, because that's what I have implemented over here. If you write something, right, you don't have to click a button, you just hit enter and it will work. If you're thinking about mobile devices, don't worry, mobile devices also comes with an enter kind of button. You can you maybe use it, you can think of it like whenever you click on it, it just goes to the next line. That's an enter button. So you can use that on mobile phone if you're browsing this website from a mobile phone. Okay, so now how can we implement that kind of functionality? So, well, actually we have to start with a button. So let me go to Material UI. I'm going to grab a button. So let me grab a very simple button like the first one, this default one. We are not going to show this. This is just there to do its function. So I'm going to go side of this text field, and then I'm going to import that button from Material UI. So whenever I will select this, it will show auto import from Material UI. I'm going to click on that and save that. And this should have shown me the button, but there it is. So this is the button, right? So what I want is whenever I will click on this button, I will have an on click. I want to call that to do function. Actually, it's called add a to do. So add to do. I want to call this function. Now, if you want this particular button to be clicked whenever we hit that enter, then just wrap text field and the button inside form, and then just save it and define this as a type of button as a submit. Just a second. Where is my mouse? Yeah, here it is. So you have to just define the type as submit. Okay, so you define the type as a submit. Now if I will say, let me just show you, console.log, and I'll say you are trying to add a to do. If I'll save that, see the console over here. Let me clear all. hello, and hit enter. Hello, and hit enter. One thing is happening, this is reloading. That's not what we want. So what I'm going to say, I'm going to say e, and I'm going to say e dot prevent default prevent. Prevent default, and like that. Okay, so now it should not so basically what happens is this is the basic property or the default property of a form, that whenever you will write some things and just hit enter, or it's called submit, that's what we defined, the type of that button as a submit, it reloads the page. We don't want that, right? So that's why what I did was I added that prevent default, which will not allow that reload. Okay, so now let me show you how exactly it's going to work. So I'm going to say hello, and when I will hit enter, make sure to see the console. I'm going to hit the enter now. So you can see you are trying to add a to-do again and again and again. So what happens is when I hit enter, this particular on-click function of this button, which have a type of submit, which is inside a form, is called. Okay, so I hope this all makes sense to you now. Okay, so now let's move on to the function of how we are going to upload this data to Firebase. So we need to first set this cloud file store up. So I'm just going to click on create database. We have two options, production mode and a test mode. We are going to start with the test mode because this gives us option to work on this for 30 days without even adding the authentication. But we can always change the security rules. Yeah, so just make sure to select whatever you want. This particular thing does not matter, and just click on enable. Wait for a second or so, and it will be provisioning cloud Firestore. I actually don't know what that means. Anyways, let's give it its time. Now, how we are going to create that function is by using this particular variable which we created with Firebase Firestore in Firebase Config file. So I'm going to say db dot. I'm going to go for a collection. I know you may not understand this, so let me explain first. So this is Firestore, and how we structure data over here is we create collections. So let me call that to-dos. And every collection can have unlimited amount of documents. So I'm just creating a document. Think of it as a to-do, and that to-do is going to have three values, as I said before. The first value is going to be the to-do itself. So I'm going to say the key of it is to-do, and this is the to-do. I hope that makes sense. This is the key, this is the value. I'm going to add one more. The second one is going to be, is it in progress or is it completed? So we are going to say is in progress, is in progress. And this is going to be a Boolean value. If it is true that it is in progress, I can just call it in progress, I guess. In progress, I'm going to call that initial value of that to be false always whenever we will create a new to-do. But from our application, we can update that to true if that particular task is completed. The next value is going to be the timestamp. So I'm going to say timestamp. And this is going to be actually timestamp. And I'll show you how you can get a server timestamp so that it's correct always, like it's not from your mobile device time, but from the server timestamp. So this is the date, and I can just, give it a time, maybe something like, I don't know which date I have, it's 25. Okay, so let me select something like 24 and maybe 12:00, and I'm going to save that. Now, I would like you to see this particular structure first if you don't understand much. This is a collection. Every collection can have unlimited amount of documents, and this document have these key value pairs like a map. Now, the best part is that, or actually the part which makes it like very scalable and whatsoever, is each document in itself can have a collection. So you can see this loop is starting, that collection can have unlimited amount of documents, and each document can have a collection, or actually multiple collections. Now those collection in itself can have unlimited amount of documents, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of a structure. Don't worry if you don't exactly understand it at the first time. More you work, more you will be able to understand it and work with it. But for now, I hope this is clear that this is a collection of to-dos, and all the different documents I will be creating inside of it are going to be a single to-do. So this is a single to-do, then we will have more and more like that. Every to-do document will have these three values. The first, is it in progress or is it completed? If it is completed, then this will be true. If it is in progress, then it will be, well, actually it's opposite. If it's in progress, then it will be true. If it is in completed, then it will be false. So like that. So it's completed right now, so I'm going to turn that to in progress. Yeah, so the timestamp is basically going to be server timestamp, and I'll show you how we can upload that. And this is a to-do which the user submitted right over here. Okay, so before we continue, as I said before, we have already implemented that this to-do will be added when we hit enter or return on your keyboard. So we don't need this button anymore, and I don't like this ugly button as well. So let me hide that. So how will I do that? I'll just go inside this and type in style, and then I'll add these two curly braces. I'll say display, and I'll say none. Okay, so now if I'll refresh, I should not have to. Not sure why it's not represented instantly, but yeah, you can see it's updated. Yeah, I didn't reload it or anything. It does automatically. So now what we need to do now is add a function to do what we did here manually. What we did, we went on to this collection, we added a document with a random ID, and then we added these values. So let me keep this open and open this up. So as I said, we will be using this DB, which is the Firestore, and I want to say dot collection. So we are starting with a collection. So what is the name of that collection? It is to-dos. So I'll say to-dos. Inside of that, we have a document. Okay, this particular document. So now we have multiple options. Either we can tell what do we want this document ID to be, or we can let Firebase create a random ID for us. So if we want to give it ourselves, then we can say doc and then provide that ID. Okay, but I don't want to, create new functions for generating a random strings and all. So I'm just going to let Firebase create a random ID for it and add my value. So that's why I'm going to use add. If you are going to define something on your own, like you are providing the value like this document, and then you will use dot set. Okay, so I hope that is clear. So now I'm going to say dot add, and now inside of that I'm going to provide the values. Okay, so what are the different values? The first is in progress, so I'm going to say in progress. Well, what is it going to be for a newly created to-do? Well, it's going to be true. Second, what is the timestamp? So, well, timestamp is going to be timestamp. We are going to get it from the server timestamp. So we are going to use Firebase for this. So I'm going to say Firebase.Firestore. Now to use this as like Firebase, we need to import that. So I'm going to say import Firebase. Guess from, it's going to be from Firebase, right? So we will import that, and then we will say dot field field value dot server server timestamp. Okay, so what I'm doing is this particular line will get a server timestamp from Firestore for this particular field value. Then I want to update the to-do. So that's the to-do. So we will be getting that in this particular hook which we define. Well, that's basically it. Once this is done, what I want to do is get rid of this particular text from this particular text field, right? Clearing it up. But I guess I can show you first. So Firebase is not defined. That's what it's saying. I actually mentioned is Firebase. It should be Firebase. Okay, so make sure of that. Okay, so let's write something. Let's do something other than watching TV all the time. This is the to-do. I have already clicked on enter. I am not sure if you heard it, but let's see if anything else is added. Guess what? It's added. So what I was saying before was once we will add that, I want to clear this text so that I can add another to do, right? So for that, what we are going to say, I want you to think, how can we update this value? Pause the video. Okay. So how we are going to update this video? I hope you're clear. We are going to use this set to do input. So I'm going to say set to do input and set that to blank. Okay. So if I will save that and let's add a new one, new to do something new. And if I hit, you can see it's clear now and it's added to the database as well. Seems easy. Let's continue. Now we are adding that, but now we want to show them over here in a list. So how we are going to do that? Well, let's start by creating a new function for it. So I'm going to create a function. I'm going to name that get data. So what this, or let me call this get to do's. Okay, that makes much more sense, right? That we are getting the to do's. Okay, so how are we going to get the to do's? Well, before we discuss how we are going to get the to do's, first let's understand where and when should we get the to do's, right? So we are going to get the to do's when we start this application for the very first time, right? So for that, you can use state. Okay, sorry, use effect, my bad. First import that, then you can use the basic structure of it. Now if you're not able to see these snippets, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this before, but I am using this extension called ES7 snippets, this one. Okay, ES7 React Redux GraphQL React Native snippets. This basically helps me. I don't have to write this from scratch and I have the code available beforehand. But anyways, so you can see this is the particular code which you can write. So it is use effect and this. So what you can see is we have these brackets over here. So how use effect works is if you want to do something when that values changes. So for example, I want to do something when the value of this changes. I can copy this and basically add it over here. So if any changes happen to this particular value, then this particular this use effect will be called, and whatever there will be inside of it will be, run. Now we want to run this only the first time. In that case, what we do, we leave it blank, and I'm going to call this function from over here. So I hope this you are clear. Blank to run only on first launch. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now what we want, now we are clear when are we going to fetch it. Now let's discuss how we are going to fetch it. So we are going to use db again, right? I'm going to say dot collection. First we need to provide the reference from where we want to get the to-dos or where we want to get the data in Firestore from. So I'm going to say I want from to-dos dot, then I want to go inside, well, not inside any document, we want to get all the documents, right? So what I'm going to say, I'm going to say dot on snapshot. Now I want you to get clear about this first. There are multiple ways to get the data from Firestore. One of it is getting on snapshot. Now the reason why I'm using on snapshot is because whenever a new data will be added, it will be instantly reflected in our list. There is another option as well in which we just say dot get, which just returns what we have at that particular movement. So what will happen if we use dot get is then we will be able to fetch the data for the first time, but when I will try to add more to-dos, I will not be able to see them real time updating in the list, right? So that's the reason why we are using on snapshot. How on snapshot works is whenever a new data will be updated, it will be instantly reflected on our list. So it's a real time database. So let me use on snapshot. And now how we define this is very simple. You just have to say function. And this function is going to have a query snapshot. That is something which we received from that particular query which we have done, which is this on snapshot query. And I'm going to say on snapshot. I hope that I named it correctly. Yeah, it does not matter, but yeah. So this is a query snapshot which will we received by this on snapshot query. And now I'm going to use it to set to-dos. Now, similar to how we have created this particular hook to save a single to-do, I'm going to create a hook to save all the list of to-dos. So let me create that. I'm going to say use state. Let me make it simple for you if you don't even have the snippets. So what we are going to do, first we will say const, then we will name the particular variable for the list of to-dos, which is going to be called to-dos, right? Now for the name of the function, which is going to update that, I'm going to say set to-dos, right? And then I can say use state, and just like that. Now the initial value for this to-dos is going to be a blank array. Okay, I hope that all makes sense. So now what I want is, I want to use this query snapshot dot, you can see it have all these documents, right? Docs. I can just map through all of them and get the values and save all of those values inside this particular to-do. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go map, and map is going to return me a particular single document each and every time. And from that document, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the values, right? Now, I don't want to just get a single value. I want to get a multiple values. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say ID. This ID is going to be doc.id. Now, you may be thinking, where is ID in this and why am I using an ID? Well, later on when we want to delete the particular, since we want to add a functionality to delete that particular to-do, we will need this particular ID to go inside this collection, then go inside this document and then delete that, right? So that's why I'm saving that. Now the question arises, how am I going to get that? Well, to get these values like in progress, timestamp or to-do, what we need to do is, let me define one. So for example, to-do, I need to say doc, okay, that particular document dot data, and then I can say I want the to-do, which is the key inside of it. But if you want the ID, then you can directly say doc.id and you will be able to get that ID, this one. Okay, so I hope it's clear on how we can get the ID. The next value which I want is in progress, and I'm going to get that similarly to how I get this to-do, doc.data and dot in progress. Okay, now it's showing it some errors over here because what we need to do is, let me cut this out. We need to have a single brackets like that, and then we should do this. Okay, so now whole of this map and going over and returning this, what it is going to do is it's going to create a list of to-dos, and that's exactly what we want to set in our to-dos. So I'm just going to cut this out and say set to-dos and set them like this. So just to clear this so that it's very clear, what we did, we get all of the documents. So we just map all over them, right, one by one, and then we are returning the value inside of it, right? And that value, since it's a map, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, thrice, and so on and so forth. It's going to become a list of these, and that list is now assigned to this set to-dos, which is going to update our to-dos. So now we will be able to access this data which we got through this to-dos variable or hook. Now let's see how we can show the list. So here's it. Now I want to show the list just below this form. So I'm going to say, first, let me use this. So we use these brackets to use JavaScript inside our JSX, right? This is not HTML, this is JSX, just to be clear again. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say to-dos.map. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm mapping through all over my to-dos. Now this is going to provide me a single to-do every time. And with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just a second, what did I do? This one. Okay, I'm going to return a paragraph with the to-do. So I'm going to say to-do. Now this is the map. I want you to be clear about this. This is this map, this whole value. To get this to-do, which is the text of it, I need to say this map dot to-do. So I will say to-do dot to-do. Now, since I'm using JavaScript inside JSX, I need to call it like this in these brackets. Now it's showing an error because it says that we need a comma. Let me make sure I'm using enough amount of these. Okay, I guess I'm using a little less. Okay, if I'll save that now, congratulations, we are able to fetch the data from Firestore. That's the first achievement. The next thing is we want to provide this option to update if it's in progress or if it's done, and also show that, of course. And then we will be adding an option to delete as well. So let's see how we can do that. So first, I'm not going to just write all of the code here. We can do that, or we can just actually create a separate folder for this particular to-do tile. This particular tile, I mean a list item. Why I'm creating a separate file for that particular one? Because modularization is something which you should do, and I just want to make sure that you understand how we separate these. So I'm going to say todo.js. So this is going to be the file which will have our JSX code. JSX, by that I mean this particular paragraphs, buttons, HTML, things like that. And to style them, I'm going to also create a CSS file. So I'm going to say todo.css. Now this is interesting. I haven't used this to-do one. Do this. Okay, this is a good one. I personally have been using VS Code for a quite long time. I've never created to-do like that, but yeah. What we are going to do is we have this todo.js and we have this todo.css. So first, to create a new component, we can use through this ES7 snippets. I can just say RFC, and if I will hit enter, you can see I have this basic boilerplate code for a component with React. I will be calling it to-do list item. Okay, let me just close this sidebar. I'm going to do that by Command B, and you can do it like according to your shortcuts. So now we have this to-do list item, and I'm going to cut this out for now, cut this paragraph from there and paste it here for now. Now we don't have this to-do provided here, so how we can accept data in a component from another component? This is something you can learn. That's why I am using another component rather than just showing it right over here. So how we can do that is by using these curly braces and defining what we want. Well, I want the to-do. Let me show you by this. I want the to-do. I want to know if it is in progress or is it done. I also want to know its time, but I'm not showing it here, so it's fine. I can just keep with these two values. But one value which I want is the ID to make this delete function work. So I'm going to say ID and save that. Okay, so we have it, but it will be showing an error if we use that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to visit here, and I'm going to use this particular component right over here. So how do we do that? I'm going to say to-do list item and then just end it. To pass in these values, we are going to say to-do, and I'm going to pass in the to-do value. Now here I'm not accepting the to-do, the whole map. Let me make it clear. This to-do which we are getting from to-do's map is actually this whole, right? I don't want this whole for this to-do. This to-do is going to be the text, right? Text only. So for that, what I'm going to say to-do dot to-do. I just want to make sure this does not confuse you, right? Then for the in progress, similar thing will happen. The to-do is to-do, but inside to-do we want in progress, because to-do is a map, and in that map we are providing this key and we want the value for this key. The next thing is that ID. So I'm going to say to-do and to-do.id. How I'm able to use the ID? Because I'm providing the ID here. Okay, so if I will save that, let's go over here and let's see if it is visible. Well, it's not visible. First of all, because I'm saying to-do.to-do, because this is not a map which we are accepting. So this is a string. So in a string, if we say dot something, it will not work, right? So if I will save this now, you can see we have what we had before back, but I'm providing the value incorrectly somewhere. Okay, so I need to provide this ID here like that. This is the ID, guys, right? So I hope that the error which I made actually make things clear for you, that if you are passing a value here and you're passing that value again, then the next value will be used here, right? So this is how you learn, that you learn by making mistakes. But anyhow, so this is working the same. You will be like, Sanskar, what is the difference? We were using this paragraph there, we are using it now. We are actually not going to use this paragraph because we want this kind of structure where we want the top one and then we want a secondary text as well. Well, I'm not going to bore you with writing CSS for it, so I'm going to use a component instead. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to say list item, and I'm going to open that up. Then I'm going to click on list, and you can see these are the kind of list. Well, what I want is I want this, primary and secondary text. So I'm going to show the source of this, and I should be able to see. Okay, so you can see this is the list item text, and this have this primary text and the secondary text, right? And this list item text is inside a list item. So these are the two components by Material UI which we will be using. So let me show you this, and let me show you how we can do that. So I'm going to say list item, import from Material UI. Then inside of that, oops, I think it's not imported, list item. Okay, now it's imported. Now inside of that, I want to use list item text. So I'm going to import that as well over here, like that and like that. Now I can provide a primary text. What is going to be the primary text? Well, the primary text, as you can see here, it is photos. So the photos is the top one, right? The main one. And the secondary one is this January 9, 2014. For our application, we want the main text to be this, and the secondary text to be, is it in progress or is it completed? So I'm going to make the primary text as to do, the to do which we are accepting. So if I will save that, you can see we have this. Now we are also using the paragraph and this, so I don't want to combine them like that. Let me just save that like that. Okay, so now we have it. We will fix this spacing issues, but yeah. So now we have the primary text. What about the secondary text? So let me add the secondary one. Now, secondary text is not going to be fixed. It's going to show in progress if it is in progress, true. If it is not in progress, then we will show it's completed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use JavaScript here, which is a tertiary operator, which is, let me show you what I mean. If you write a condition here, and then you say question mark and true and false. So what will happen is, if the condition is true, then this particular first one will happen. If the condition is false, then this second one will happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if it is in progress. This is a condition, this is a Boolean value, right? So if it is in progress, I'm question, if that will be true, this text will be visible. If that is false, this text will be visible. So what I want is, if it is in progress, show in progress. And we can just show some fun emojis as well. Where are my emojis? Where are my emojis? Bring me emojis. Anyhow, I'm not able to go now. So I'm just going to copy that in progress, paste it here. I'm not going to call it in progress for this. I'm going to call it completed. Yeah. So if I will save that, you will be able to see we have in progress for all of these. If I will change for maybe this first one to false, and you can see it's instantly updated, right? I don't have to refresh the list. So that's the best part about snapshot, but you can see it's completed now. Okay, so okay, now it is visible. Anyhow, so what do we want now is we want these two buttons over here. One will be to delete it, one will be to update if it is completed or not. So I'm going to use button from Material UI again, and similar to this one, right? This button which we created, and this button is going to be done. Let me just see if it's visible. Okay, we need to import that. First, make sure of that. Auto import from Material UI. Enter. We have that. Let me save that. Okay, we have this done button, but we want this to be, side by side, not like this one above the other. So I hope you remember how we do that. We use style. We will say display. We will say flex. This is the defined property of it, like default property of it. Now you can see these are structured exactly how we want. Okay, so we have this done button, and the next we also want a button to delete that. So that's going to be that. Okay, so now we have the button, we can continue further to give them the properties they need. So whenever, first thing first, I don't want to show this as done. I want to show this as undone when it's completed and show done when it's in progress. So let me fix that similar to how we did it here. I'm going to copy that, paste it here. So if it is in progress, I would like to show that the user can mark it as done. If it is not in progress, which means it is done, then mark it as undone. So now you can see it is showing undone for this and done for this. Okay, now let's implement the functions for these. So first function I'm going to create is going to be the function which is going to update. I'm going to call this toggle. Toggle is basically changing from one to another. Toggle in progress. Because what this function is going to do is this function is just going to change the in progress from true to false or false to true. So whatever the value of it is right now, just flip that. So that's why I'm calling it toggle in progress. Well, the actual thing what I'm going to do is I'm actually updating that in the database, right? So how can we update that in database? Well, very easy. Just first tell Firestore what is the path. So the path is database, which is to use the Firestore dot collection, which is going to be this one. So I'm going to say to do's, then dot document. Inside this particular document, I want to update. So I need to provide the document ID. So even for the update, we need this ID. So I'm going to copy that ID, paste it here, then say dot update. You can see how easy it is, right? Literally you are typing English right now. Okay, so inside this update, since we are updating the key, so in a map, so I'm going to provide like these curly braces, then the key which I want to update. What is key? This is the key in progress. So just copy that, paste it here, and I want to change that to whatever it is. So right now it is in progress. I'll just use not sign. This is a not sign. Okay, this will be in your one key, number one key in your keyboard. So this particular sign denotes not. So I'm just saying whatever the value of that is, just not it, which means if the value of this in progress is true, we will upload false. If that is false, we will upload true. So that is what the whole toggle in progress means. So when do we want to toggle that? Well, whenever we will click on this. So on click, I'm going to call this function. Well, this should be equals to not plus. Okay, so if I will save that now, and let me cancel that, come over here. This is right now completed. If I will click on this, you can see it's in progress. If I will click on it again, it's completed. Well, guess what? It's working for everyone. Okay, so the next step is to delete that particular to-do. So let's see how we can do that. I'm going to say function delete to-do, and inside of that, I'm going to say database.collection to-dos dot document. We are going to go inside the collection, inside the document by ID, and then I'm going to say dot delete. Okay, like that. Now, when do I want to call this delete to do? When I click on this button, this X button. So I'm going to say on click, provide that function, and let's get back and see if it works. New to do something. So this is new to do something. Let's see if it will get deleted if I will click on this. So here I go, click. Well, guess what? It's deleted. Okay, so I hope it's clear how easy it is to delete it, how easy it is to update, how easy to upload, how easy it is to fetch. We literally never wrote more than 1 to 2 lines of code to perform some action. Don't count this one. This was to save the value to our local variable, right? So yeah, that's the whole part of it. Now for the UI, you may be thinking, Sanskar, I want it to look a little bit better than this, right? So let me just do one quick thing that align them properly. This alignment is not perfect, right? So let me just see what's the problem right now. So as you can see, this list view is till this part, but this is not able to be in the center. So I'm just going to go inside of this text field, and I want this in center always. So what I can do is I can just say align item I'm not sure it will work for this, but I'm just trying. So align and center. I don't think that's the best thing to do. Let me just remove this max width property. This makes it much more bad. Just get rid of the width as well. Get rid of the whole style thing. If I'll save that, you can see it's just right over here. I wanted it in the center. It's not going like that. So I'm just going to provide that, you know, all this style. If I cut it from there and provide it from there, it is better. But yeah, let me just provide the width as well. So I'm going to say width will be 90 view width. Okay, so that's how it is. So if you want to provide height, so that is how it works. If I'll save that, now it's taking the 90% of it, but it's not exactly centralized. Let me just confirm. Okay, so it's not centered in itself. So let me just clear that all. And I'm going to just say width to 100%. Now, since it's the most outside element, it's going to take the whole width. Okay, now I want these to have a fixed width, not like that. You know, this does not look good when one is starting from here, one is starting from there. So I'm just going to fix that, guys. And let me just do that quick. I'm going to say style. Where is it? I guess that fixes that. And for this to do, I would like that to have a little bit of a more, you know, width. So I'm going to say I want the style to be width of 90%, or maybe not 90%, because when I will provide 90%, it will depend on this div. But I think we can depend on it since it's already taking 100%. So I'm going to say 90% and give this a try. Okay, it's not changing anything at all. So I'm going to just say VW. So you can see it's just taking the whole space. I don't want that too much to happen. I'm just going to say max width, and I'm going to provide that to 500 pixel. So you can see that looks fine to me. I'm going to provide the same styling to this particular div to make sure, you know, these looks like they start and end at the same place. Okay, that's perfect. Actually, these list items have a little bit of, you know, padding from both sides. That's why it's a bit better. What I can do is I can also provide a bit of a margin top, just as a cherry on top, just to make it a bit more better. I guess, okay, I need to say pixel. Okay, so now that's the app. Next step is to host this online on a website, a domain, and things like that. Well, as I said, it is going to be free, so you don't need anything. Let's see how we're going to do that. Click on first click on Firebase Hosting, then click on Get Started. Copy this. If you're doing this for the first time, you will be required to paste this and install. It is going to take quite a lot of time for me if I'm going to update mine, so I'm not going to do that. But believe me, I have done this before. Okay, so then I'm going to click on Next. Then I'm going to log in. Now, I'm actually logged in with another account, so I'm going to first log out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in again. Go to the terminal and I'm going to log in with a new account. So I'm going to say Firebase log in and hit yes. This will open up a new window where you can log in. So I'm going to use my account of this one, the same which I'm using for creating the Firebase project. Once that is done, it will say, woohoo, you're successfully logged in. So you can see that here as well. Now what we want to do is Firebase init. So I'm going to say Firebase init, hit enter, then select hosting, hit enter, use an existing project because we have already created that project, hit enter. I'm going to use this Todo App because this is the one which I created in front of you guys. The sample one was before already there, right? Okay, now for the directory name, I'm going to call, because whenever we will build this particular React project, which I will show you how to build, we will have a build folder. So I'm going to name this build. Rewrite all the URLs to index.html. I guess this is self-explanatory. All the URLs will be redirected to index.html. Yes. Um, I have not fixed that, but we are not here going to set up the GitHub automate deploy. So let me do that. Okay. So now the Firebase project is set up. What we need to do is build the React project and push it to Firebase. So I'm going to say React, npm run build. This is going to build the React project for us, and then we are going to push this project to Firebase hosting. So let's wait for a second or so that this gets done, and then we are good to go to push this code on the web. So I hope if you have watched till far, you have completed. Make sure to give me the link of your project. I'll be really excited to see your work, guys. That really makes me happy of how people are actually impacted. Okay, so now let me go to the next step. Copy Firebase deploy. I can even write that, but yeah, so I can just say Firebase deploy, and just to show you guys, we have this build folder now. Okay, when I run this command of npm run build, this particular folder was created, and all those files which we write, JSX and all, it was actually converted into JS like this, and CSS. CSS was there, but I hope that makes sense now. Okay, so it's actually live, guys. Let me open that up, and let's see if it works. This should work. Okay, so as you can see, the project is live successfully. If you are facing any issues, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'll be more than happy to help you. And thanks for watching the video till the end. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you want to learn more. And I'll see you in the next